Is the current state of investment in new businesses flourishing or floundering? Let's dive into the heart of this interesting topic. Picture this. Two states, Texas and California, each with their unique investment strategies. One, a haven for new businesses, beckoning them with open arms. The other, a gold mine, but perhaps a challenging one to access. Texas, for instance, has perfected the art of business attraction over the last quarter century. A state that waits patiently for others to fall into financial disarray, then swoops in, offering a tempting escape. The promise of low taxes, even tax-free years, is a lure many companies find hard to resist. The Texas governor, accompanied by a handful of mayors and development boards, presents a persuasive pitch to struggling states, promising a brighter future under the Texas sun. It might seem a tad ruthless, but the strategy works. Texas reels in billions in company investments, creating a thriving business environment that continues to grow. The proof lies in the pudding. Since 1995, all 5 of Texas's top metro regions have consistently featured in the top 20 list for the fastest-growing American cities. On the other side of the spectrum, California, the state known for its economic inequality. While Silicon Valley might be the poster child for prosperity, the reality is slightly less rosy. Regulatory burdens have reached a point where startups can no longer afford to operate in California. Instead, they begin elsewhere, only to be scouted, bought, and transplanted by Silicon Valley giants. This absence of a startup ecosystem exacerbates inequality, driving up prices as newly minted millionaires bid up house prices. This has led to a homelessness issue that, while not yet a social crisis, has the potential to become one if left unchecked. In addition, California's cities have almost reached their maximum growth capacity. The only option now is to build up, further escalating the cost of living and doing business. So, what have we gleaned from this discussion? Texas and California, 2 states with contrasting strategies for attracting investment. Texas, with its low taxes and business-friendly environment, has managed to attract and retain businesses, leading to consistent growth. In contrast, California's regulatory burdens have stifled startups, leading to economic inequality and social issues. As the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and these 2 states exemplify that. However, the question remains, which approach is more sustainable in the long run? We'll leave that for you to decide. Thank you for joining us on this journey through investment strategies in Texas and California. Remember, the world of investment is as diverse as it is dynamic. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay tuned. Could it be that California, the 5th largest economy in the world, is on the cusp of a significant economic downturn? And how does Seattle, a city with a smaller but rapidly growing economy, compare? California's economic prowess is undeniable. It's a hub for technology, entertainment, and services. Yet, it's also a state grappling with a multitude of challenges. Skyrocketing rents and property prices have made cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles almost unaffordable for many residents. This is largely due to restrictions on vertical construction in these cities, which have only intensified the housing crisis. Moreover, despite being a leader in the tech and services sector, California is heavily dependent on international supply chains. To put this into perspective, consider the iPhone, which is built in approximately 12,200 facilities across 50 countries. California's Apple relies heavily on this network. But what happens when global trade hits a roadblock? The state will need to drastically reconfigure its systems to operate with significantly fewer facilities. This adjustment could be a monumental challenge. California's reliance on foreign oil due to its stringent energy and environmental regulations also exposes it to potential international disruptions. As the United States' interest in maintaining the international system wanes, California risks being the state with the most to lose when the system falters. Now let's turn our attention to Seattle. While smaller in scale, Seattle's economy shares some similarities with California's. It is a gateway city for capital flight, which has led to an influx of price-insensitive investors. Coupled with geographic constraints that limit the city's expansion, these factors have resulted in escalating property prices. However, Seattle's situation might be more sustainable than California's. The inequality issue is less severe, and there are other attractive areas within Washington state. Companies like Google have a near-captive presence, which bodes well for the city's economic prospects. In conclusion, both California and Seattle boast strong economies with their own unique strengths and challenges. California's size and diversity, coupled with its reliance on international supply chains and foreign oil, leave it vulnerable to global disruptions. On the other hand, Seattle's smaller economy, while facing its own challenges, seems to be on a more sustainable path. These are complex issues that will undoubtedly shape the future of these economies. It's a fascinating comparison and one that reminds us of the interconnectedness of our global economy. And Boeing, who have so much money and industrial plants sunk into the metro region that they're not even going to consider moving, that doesn't mean they're always going to be easy to deal with. When the Seattle City Council tried to put tax into place to generate more affordable housing, Seattle basically said, we will never add another job in Seattle again if you do this right. So there's a tension, and that is unavoidable. But it's a much better situation than California is finding itself in, because Seattle, Washington, they're not nearly as integrated into global supply chains as the Silicon Valley region is Hawaii. You gotta remember, it's got a small population. Half of them live in one city, and that one city basically has one east-west road that everybody has to live on. I mean, when your island is a part of a collapsed volcanic cone, you can't really go up. And so everybody's concentrated in this one tiny little footprint. So of course you're gonna have price appreciation. Of course you're gonna have horrible traffic. And because it's the first stop for the Japanese company, the United States, of course you're gonna have a lot of foreign capital flight that goes into it as long as the world is scared, or as long as Japan has money to burn. Prices in Honolulu are going to be strong and rising. I don't think it's ever going to come down. You move outside of Honolulu, and you don't have a single market. You've got dozens, almost hundreds of markets on the edges of all of these islands that trade on their own mechanics. But the fact remains that all the flat land that is near the coast that people want to live on has already been built on. And so if you want to build there, you have to buy a pre-existing property level, and start over, and the regulations for that are that varies not just island by island and town by town, but oftentimes block by block. I just keep in mind that now that NAFTA has been renegotiated, the biggest question mark that was hovering over the Mexican economy has been resolved, and I don't think that ratification of NAFTA is going to face meaningful conflict in Congress. I think it'll be ratified this year, so the glide path or the flight path for the Mexican system looks pretty robust, and anyone who's integrated into that looks like they're going to do very well. Texas is the state, of course, that's going to benefit that most from that. The great PL state and the states of the I-35 corridor are second in line, and that is probably the part of the country that I think is going to be most interesting from an economic growth point of view moving forward.